let's dive into your hockey and coaching background right off the hop. Did you play junior hockey? Did you play minor, pro? And talk a little bit about your coaching. Are you on board with that Hockey Canada skills coaching program? Have you done any of that or done your D1 or HP1 or anything like that?
Yeah, so as a kid, I only played minor hockey. I was actually just kind of a double A player, never kind of moved up, never really had the desire. But at a young age, I got into teaching, and by the time I was 14, I was already helping out at different programs in the area in Mississauga here. And then from there, I got into coaching at a young age and just kind of started building my way up. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love with it. So just pre-COVID here, I got on board with the GTHL as a facilitator, and I met some guys with Hockey Canada, and from that, I got to do the Hockey Canada National Skills Program, which I just completed last year. So now I'm doing some of their programs, like the Program of Excellence. I've done a few here in Ontario. I've done Fredericton. So that's kind of the gist of my background there.
Okay, awesome. And are you from Toronto? Are you from that area? I know you've got family. You mentioned in Newfoundland. I mean, the man in the moon is the Newfie, so everybody seems to have family here.
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. I do have a lot of family from my mom's side in Newfoundland, so would be nice to come back for sure one day. It's been a while, but yeah, I love the Rock. It's an awesome place.
We're going to get you down next year to do some skill stuff in the spring. So we will talk a little bit more about that later. So where do you run your programs out of? Where do you run Gen Edge hockey out of? Do you have your own facility? Do you have a gym? Do you have like a small pad, or do you just use different rinks in the greater Toronto area?
So mostly in the GTA, and I just kind of go from rink to rink. For the majority of the part, I'm in Mississauga and Oakville, just outside of Toronto. But I've looked into getting my own facility. We've done a lot of research, a lot of homework on that. But I decided that just kind of going rink to rink, it's easier to get around to see everybody. The cost obviously is more effective that way too. And I find it easier just to build my program that way.
Okay, and there's a lot of people out there that are like that. If you're looking at not taking on a whole lot of debt, obviously, if you're going to build your own facility or have your own facility, you're probably going to have to take out a loan or take out some type of debt or have some person leverage. You're going to have to leverage somebody that you know to be able to foot that bill for the cost of it, and that it's just not that cost effective for somebody. Let's dive into skills training and some trends that are going on right now around skills training. Do you like some of the new trends that are going? Like, there's a lot of stuff a lot of stuff on the ice, a lot of gear on the ice. I would consider that a trend. People want to add more and more props on the ice. Do you like stuff like that, or do you see some trends that you like or not like?
I do and I don't, and it's a fine line. I find the biggest trend right now is just raw skill development, and I call it the yard sale and throwing a lot of things on the ice. I've done it in the past, and it depends how you run the drill. If it's just about skill heads down, you're not paying attention to what you're actually doing or what your surroundings are, I don't like it in that sense. But as soon as you start creating game scenarios and get the kids thinking how, when, why, where would we be doing these types of skills, then it kind of makes sense. However, I do think that you can put stuff on the ice, but you do have to take it away from them. You don't want to create robots when you're working on skill. So, I like to progress drills where maybe it's a 4-cone agility drill where they got to do a different transition around every cone. They can kind of go in any order. Then we kind of add pressure. Then we take the cones away and go, okay, now you have the same space, but you're reading, reacting, you're doing what you want. You see the pressure, you change direction, that kind of stuff. So I think there's a way to progress it and not just build that raw skill talent.
That's a really good point there. I like the fact that you're making that progression from, okay, we're just going to do it here and we're going to use the cones. It's very assembly line, as I like to call it. You're going from one spot to the other, and it's predisposed. Now you're adding in. A hockey game is not like that. And that's why I'm not really a big fan of a lot of these props or equipment, because it kind of pigeonholes players into not only going in a set path, but also looking down at the puck all the time. So as a coach, Ty, philosophies, And everybody kind of has some things that they like to hang their hat on. I am a really, really big heads up person. I really don't like drills that focus on looking down, as I just explained. What are some of your philosophies as a coach that you really hammer home in your sessions?
So I like a 360 view. So it's not just having your heads up and looking in front of you, but it's the shoulder checks, it's the scanning, it's building in puck protection while you're scanning, the layers, the details. So again, having the when we're doing let's say a one-on-one drill, but it starts with some pressure on your back and you got to make an evasive move to get away. It's like a lot of kids will just turn, right? So that's kind of what they've been taught. They don't think, they don't know why they're doing it. They just think, okay, the coach told me I got to turn and create this into a one-on-one. Where I'm a little bit more like, we got to have that shoulder check. We got to find that pressure, feel the pressure, roll off of it, protect the puck. So I think that's something that we're missing across the board for the most part. And it kind of goes back to my point of that raw talent. Like the kids can do it, but as soon as there's pressure, they're not the same player that they are without the pressure. So just building in that layer of vision and scanning.
I try to get kids. I talk a lot about this when you're doing your shoulder checks and when you're reading. I want to turn away from somebody's stick. If they're in my left hip, I'm not going to turn back to the left. They're already on that side of my body. It's definitely going to likely create a turnover. I want to turn away from that pressure. I want to turn away from that person's stick. If they put their stick on the left side of my body, I'm going to fake left to get them to put their stick there and then go to the right because that's where the time and space is going to be. And that's a big thing for me is finding the time and space in every zone, whether it be the D zone. How do we find time and space? So are we going to reverse this puck? Are we going to use the weak side when everybody is on the strong side and so on? Trying to find that time and space is really the essence of the game, in my opinion. The guys that are really, really good players at the next level, they find time and space better than anybody, whether they create it with speed, like a guy like McDavid, or they create it with just understanding how to use the pieces around them, like a guy like a Kucherov, who's not that fast, or a Panarin or a Draisaitl. They're just so good at the time. Their timing is impeccable. Where do you get most of your drills, Ty? Are you someone that likes to just watch NHL games and draw them up by hand? Or are you a person that likes to kind of pick and choose from different other companies? Maybe you saw something and copy and improve type of thing? Or how do you go about your drill selection?
I have a lot of resources for sure. I like to research as much as I can. I watch a lot of the Zoom calls from those coaches' sites, off of Instagram. The Hockey Canada app is great with so many different opportunities to grab drills for different ages and different skills. Watching NHL games too, just seeing something I like and I go, you know what, this is going to be good. We can create a drill out of it. Like it's a trend that we're seeing in the game, so we're going to work on this. I would consider myself a pirate too. Like I'm at the ice, I just steal whatever I like, and I usually put my own twist to it because often like you'll see a drill, you go, okay, it's good, but we can add something and make it a little bit more of a game application to it.
I'm more of a like by hand kind of guy. You see a lot of great apps out there nowadays too, and great websites or Instagram channels. There's just lots of different places. There's a lot more places now to find drills and to find concepts than there was 20 years ago when I started. When I played under 18 AAA, my coach used the same set of drills for an hour and a half practice every single practice. And eventually you knew what was going to happen. It was very boring by halfway through the year. And I'm the type of person, I like to change up the drills all the time. I never like to give somebody the same look twice if possible. So trying to keep that fresh and try to have great drills for players all the time is something I try to focus on as a coach. Challenges of the job. Skills coaching obviously has a lot of challenges, especially when you're dealing with small class sizes. Ty, your program is a small class size program, correct?
For the vast majority, yeah. I would say most of my groups are between the 6 and 12 range. I do a lot of privates, semi-privates as well. Like I had a session yesterday where I had two age groups, a couple instructors on the ice. It was 6 and 6. So there's 12 on the ice, but they were separated, right? So challenges though, especially here in the GTA, it's a very oversaturated area. There is a lot of skilled instructors out here. There's a lot of coaches that do skills on the side. Spring programs are just through the roof, and there's so much going on. So trying to build a business, a respectable business, and having enough players coming in, it can be challenging at different times of the year, at different stages for sure. Second one, obviously the cost again, in the GTA, ice is still very expensive. And the third one is fixing bad habits. And that can come from different resources. Maybe some players are maybe taught the wrong thing, or not taught the wrong thing necessarily, but going back to our point about the yard sale and not having that vision. So I get guys that are playing junior OHL and they can't scan the ice because they've never been a part of that. Never been taught that. So I think those are the three biggest ones for me for sure, in this area.
What is ice time running you now in Toronto?
So it could be anywhere from, if I get like a last minute five skater, it could be $120 for the hour. But if I get a prime time hour, it could be over 500 for an hour. So it really depends on what rink. Is it private? Is it city owned? Is it last minute? Is it ahead of time?
What time do you normally operate your programs? Like prime time in Ontario, probably about 4:30 to 9:30, something in there. Do you normally operate early afternoon, whenever you can get it, lunch times, daytimes, mornings?
So with my junior guys, typically it's right now in the spring, it's kind of like that after school. So I got a couple guys that are still playing the U18 in high school, that joined them. So we usually go around 4:15. And then most guys that are working, they're done by then. In the summer, it's more mid-afternoon, early morning. I try to stay away from the prime time. Just, one, I think the kids, especially if they don't need to, if they can get their stuff out of the way, then in the evening they can relax. They do need that time off, as do I. But yeah, and again, in the prime time hours, it's just so expensive, and it's tough to run a program unless it's a last minute thing.
We run our programs with vision in the mornings. So during the season, from when school starts to May, September to May, we're 6 to 8 in the mornings, Monday through Friday. And then we usually use Saturday, and we do camps on the weekends in different places around the province. So we were in a couple of different rural towns this year, but the primary focus of our program is morning ice time because of cost. And you aren't paying here. Prime time ice is anywhere between, say, $225 an hour to $300 an hour, somewhere in that range. And we're only in St. John's, and it's not a very big city. But if you're trying to do small class programming in small groups, it is very, very hard to turn a profit if you are spending $300-400 on ice time like you potentially would be in the GTA. So charge players so much money. I mean, a lot of kids, they don't want to spend $80-90 an hour to do a class. And if you are spending $500 on ice time and you're only getting 5 to 10 kids, you almost have to charge that. So to keep the cost at a reasonable amount for kids and for families here, you almost have to have a reasonable ice price, and you want to run a quality program. I'm not a big fan of having more than 12 kids on the ice for a skill session. That's just me. I find I can't talk to the kids. I can't relate to them. I like to talk to every player on the ice every hour. So if there's a kid that comes on the ice and I don't get a chance to chat with him, or I don't get a chance to say great job and here's why, or that wasn't a great job potentially, or something you need to improve on, you obviously have to word that a certain way now in 2023. But here's something that you need to work on, some constructive criticism. I didn't do my job. And when you have 40 kids on the ice, 30 kids, I see skill sessions now, guys running with 30-35 kids on the ice. You can't, the drills that you do have to be like less than 10 seconds, and you have to do quick drills. But if you only have one or two people going, you've got a lot of people resting, and it's just not good rest to go ratio for me. So I like to keep the numbers small, and that is probably the biggest challenge in the skills training industry, is finding ice time at the right times where the cost matches up, that you can have a small class and still profit as a business, but also give the clients the best possible program, so that they can get better. And they can, maybe we can add the video in, we can bring the tripod out. You can't bring a tripod on the ice with 40 kids on the ice unless you're using an ice that's the size of Lake Ontario. So, it's just one of those types of things that's a challenge for me for sure. Another challenge for me, I think, Ty, would be just, some kids, they're going to so many different programs. They leave Vision Hockey Group and they go to another program. Just here are teaching, okay, do this. Then when they come to our program, it's, well, I suggest that you try doing it this way. So the kids are sometimes being pulled in one direction, then another direction, and they're not really sure what's what, and when to use each type of technique. So that's a big challenge for me, to try to get people to understand that there's lots of different ways to do something. Like if I'm going forwards and I'm transitioning backwards, you can lead with your toes, but you can also lead with your heels. Some coaches might say, oh, you can never do it this way, or you should never do it that way. And I'm not a never guy. I'm a guy that's everything is situational dependent. So that's a challenge for sure for our program.
Again, it is situational, and I'm the same way. I never say never, even though I just said never. But I try to. There's always a time and a place to do something, to use a skill. So for sure, that's a big thing that I'm seeing. Trying to take what other people are teaching and maybe correct it in minor ways. Like not saying it's technically wrong, but here's how we can make it better. And with sorry, I was going to mention about the pivots too. I know you said about the toe turns and the heels first, and that there's I teach 3 different pivots. I do a heels first, a toes first, and a riding the inside edge, and they're all situational. And I know coaches that say never turn your toes first, always heels, always heels. And I'm like, well, what if you have to angle? You're turning your back to the player. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes you have to ride your edges and get across the ice, and then you can also minimize the crossovers you use on your pivots.
Ty, let's dive into NHL. You're watching Stanley Cup Finals coming up, Florida Vegas. Our group on Instagram, we had a little poll, and most of the people going with the Panthers. We got 72% of our Vision Hockey Group voters going with the Panthers. Over 200 votes. Thank you very much to everybody who voted. What do you think? Are you on the Panthers too?
Well, I'm a little depressed about that because I am a Boston fan. So they obviously, yeah, that was the Panthers 100% deserve to win that series. That hurt a lot, but they are impressing me. They are coming in every series. Bobrovsky is playing unbelievable. They're getting guys stepping up. Kachuk obviously has been a huge factor. As much as I would love to see Vegas win, I really do think the Panthers have it. And I've been, I thought Carolina might have taken them, but obviously that didn't happen. Even though it was a 4-0 series, it could have gone either way, really. Like every game was tight for the most part. But yeah, I think Florida's got this. I really do.
Rod Brindamore came out after they got swept and he said, well, it wasn't a 4-game series. And I understood a lot of the media kind of jumped on him about that, but I understood what he said. The games were so close. And, when you're getting into overtime, you get a bounce here, you get a bounce there. And they had multiple overtime games in that series. And the last game, of course, 5 seconds left or 3 seconds left when that goal went in. I had the breakdown of the goal, actually on our website. I will put the link to that down below in the description. But yeah, I thought Carolina were going to win. I did a podcast with a guy, and I picked Carolina and Dallas. So what do I know about hockey? I felt after I did that, and then Carolina gets swept, and Dallas go out and lose in 6 to Vegas. I don't think I'm going to be on anybody's wish list in the future for hockey betting, but I think Florida has it. I just have a lot of confidence in their goaltending right now. I think Vegas still, that goaltending is a little bit unproven, and Florida's stars are coming to play. Matthew Tkachuk has just been unbelievable so far in the playoffs. That trade has really been like an egg on Calgary's face. I think they had no choice but to do it, but still, I think Brad Treliving is really regretting that move. Yeah, I'm going with Florida too. I'm on the Panthers. Barkov's a great player, hey?
He is something. He's great to watch. And when he has the options around him to work with, that makes him that much better. I think between him, Kachuk, Bobrovsky, and then all the lower end guys stepping up. Verhaeghe's playing amazing too. There's just so much there. There's Bennett being Bennett on the ice, right? They have the grit, they have the drive to the net, they're playing well defensively. They're dialed in. Paul Maurice has done a fantastic job with them. I'm excited to see this series. I don't think it's going to be an easy one. I think it's going to go far. I think you made a great point about Vegas and their goaltending not really proven yet. However, the fact that they've gone through 4 goalies this year and they're in the Stanley Cup Finals is really something truly amazing to see.
Do you think that we're undervaluing Vegas because we don't get to see them that much? Like for me, where I live in the East Coast, is probably the worst thing about living in Newfoundland is the timing of the games. I mean, to watch a West Coast game, I'm probably going to have to stay up till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to finish the game. So excuse me, it's going to be hard for me to do that and get up again for a 6 a.m. session. So I don't get to see Vegas a whole lot. And I mean, looking at the names on the back end, they've got a great core back there, and up front they've got some weapons too. And maybe I feel like I'm undervaluing them a little bit because we just don't get to see them like we see the Panthers on the East Coast. I mean, we see Toronto's, we see the original six teams, and the Panthers obviously playing the Lightning and playing on the East Coast. And in that division, I see a lot of them. So I have a better understanding of who they have. But Vegas, like I might have seen one or two Vegas games this year. So maybe I'm undervaluing Vegas. I don't know about you.
I would say the same. I haven't watched too many West Coast games, period. So Vegas, what I have seen is it looks good, but when you've only seen like two or three games, it's really hard to say. So yes, absolutely, we could be undervaluing them. They may blow us away and be a lot better than we even think they are. They do have a lot of good players as well. So just I think Florida to me, has everything that you need in a championship team. They have all the pieces, at least that we've seen so far. We'll see what happens here in the finals, but right now, just going by the many games I've seen of Florida and the few I've seen of Vegas, I think that Florida has the better chance. But again, it could be totally undervaluing them.
And let's pivot back to some coaching philosophies and coaching. Just going to ask your opinion on a few things before we shut this conversation down. Um, a lot of kids in Newfoundland, they play a lot of hockey in the springtime. And I'm not a humongous fan of too much hockey in the spring. I like to see kids play multiple sports. Where are you on this? Are you a fan of, okay, 12 months a year hockey, or are you more of a, okay, like I'm going to have seasons and I'm going to do my off ice training and I'm going to really hammer home those like May, June, July. I'm going to spend more time off the ice and play in other sports, and then come back and I'm fresh and excited about the next season.
So I agree with you. I'm not big on the 12-month hockey. I think it's okay to have or to be on the ice a little bit in the springtime, but like here in the GTA, it's like tournaments every single weekend. We're practicing twice a week. It's like it's you're on the ice more now than you were in your entire season. And to me, that makes zero sense. I think you do need to play other sports. You got to work on different muscle groups that are going to help you when it comes to when you're playing hockey, baseball, lacrosse, football, like whatever you want to do. Like get away from the rink. Like I still think you should be on the ice once a week, like just, refining some skills after you take a bit of a break. Like don't end your season and go, okay, I got to get on the ice. I got to get ready for next year. No, take a few weeks. As you get older, it's more time in the gym for sure. And then, get really maybe on the ice a lot more in middle July, pushing into mid-August, and then your season kind of starts. So I do think, yeah, players need to sit back and go, or I shouldn't say players, parents need to, step away, right? And let their kids do something else for sure. And then when hockey season's back on, like then you roll, then you go. Because I see too many kids by the time they're 14, 15, they're completely burnt out. They don't care. The parents sunk all this money into them at a younger age, and then they just don't care anymore because that's all they've done, and they know nothing else.
That's a great point. And I relate this a lot of the time. It's a keeping up with the Joneses theory where Johnny next door is in this program and Jacob next door is in this program. So, well, I got to be in this program because my two buddies are in this program. And even though I've been on the ice and I'm exhausted and I have hip injuries at 12 years old. I mean, this year I had in one of my classes, I had two kids with hip injuries. Now, not from just, getting hit or anything like that, just from overuse. And I don't think I've ever seen that. And this is year 26 for me in this business. I've never seen two kids from the same class with hip issues. I'm just really surprised to see that. And I think part of it is just being on the ice too much and not taking that right rest and recovery, not recovering and not having your off season. The off season now is very, very, if there is any off season, very few kids even take one now. And let's kind of pivot into talking about skills coaching in other countries. You see Finland right now, a country only has this less than 10 million people. That country seems to be competitive virtually every year at the Worlds, at the World Championships, at the Olympics. What are they doing? Are we missing something that they're doing? Have you paid much attention to what they're doing skill wise over there? And is there anything that you're seeing over there that we could potentially apply here?
I don't know specifically Finland, but I do know that a couple countries over there, like they're more focused on the skill development at younger ages. They really cut back on games. It's more about developing the skills. And I believe a lot of guys kind of stick with the same person and not do that, go to a million different people and learn, like we talked about earlier. I couldn't really give you too much more information on that personally. But is I think the biggest thing to take from that though is the fact that they're training at a younger age more than they're playing games.
We talked about this in HP1 many years ago. Is the practice to game ratio for the Scandinavian countries? Usually, it's closer to 80-20, and it's more along like 80% practice and skill development and skating development, and 20% is games. And I'd say at the younger ages, maybe even a higher percentage towards practice time. So I know that's not as exciting for kids. And I'm sure parents don't like that as much either, because everybody likes to watch a game. You know, watching a skill session is like, I mean, it's not exactly something that's riveting, exciting, but watching a game is more exciting. I like that model of more development and skating and skill development and technique development, because if you have bad habits, it's like math class. If you can't add and subtract and divide and multiply, it's going to be really, really hard to do derivatives in university. So having that foundation is so critical to advanced skills. I see a lot of kids now, and they're doing mohawks, and they're doing really advanced skills, but they can't do a glide turn both ways. And I feel like sometimes we put that cart before the horse because it looks cool on Instagram to, oh, look at this 7-year old, they can do this crazy edge work skill. But at the same time, they can do that, but they can't do the most basic concepts of, they can't puck handle with their head up. They can't puck protect. They can't do the basics, and or they don't know where to put the puck when there's pressure on them. So I feel like sometimes it's done for social media and likes and follows versus done for a purpose. And I'd like to see a little bit more on the side of, okay, we can do the most common skills and the most common techniques first, then we can get into the more advanced stuff. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great point. I think often it's for social media. It looks pretty to the naked eye, but then to somebody with hockey knowledge, it might not actually be the best thing. We had this conversation the other day. I was up in Thunder Bay running a program of excellence camp on the weekend, and a few of us were talking about Connor McDavid and what his shifts kind of look like. And we were talking about an example where he kind of took 2 strides and then he glided from the O zone all the way back to his D zone. And he was still gliding. And then he saw the opportunity. He jumped into space. And it was like, there was nothing pretty about what he did. But the biggest thing that he could do that most kids can't is he knew how to glide. There is a proper way to glide and to be efficient with it. And he gets it. And that's why he's as good as he is. Where, yes, you go to a lot of these skill sessions and it's just, this looks pretty, let's do this. Well, is this really applying to a game? Or do we actually do this in this area on the ice? Like if we're doing a drill that, okay, it looks good, but the kids will never do it in this circumstance, why are we doing it here? It makes no sense. So I think, yeah, definitely working on those minor skills are the biggest thing. The heads up, right? They can't handle a puck with their head up. Like, and that comes back to the yard sale stuff. It's just like everything is looking at the ice, and we're not building the right layers and details.
One of the biggest things I stress with kids is, as soon as the puck hits your blade, I want you to look up. Now, obviously, you want to scan before you pick it up, but when it comes to actually retrieving a puck, as soon as it hits your blade, get your eyes up and start scanning. That's like a habit that you want to create. And eventually you want to get to the point where you can pick it up without even looking down. That might save you a half second. But as soon as it hits your blade, instead of stick handling twice and then looking up, let's look up as soon as it hits my blade and minimize that stick handling, because a lot of times we just overhandle a puck in general. I feel like as a population, we overhandle a puck way too much.
Absolutely. I think, and I've been working on this I work a lot of D, with a lot of D, and it's just getting that puck loaded, and they just want to walk the line, overhandle. It's like, no. Get this puck ready to be moved, right? What passes do I have? Do I have the flank? Do I have tips? Do I have guys driving the net? Do I have, my partner? Like, but if I'm handling the puck, I can't make any one of these plays. So just get it on your forehand as much as you can.
Totally agree with that because you see some guys and they're walking the line. They have the puck in a place like with one hand on their stick. Like if I'm a winger and I'm in the D zone and I see that you have the puck in the wrong spot or you're in a very vulnerable position, I might attack you. And I can literally strip you from the puck while you're walking line and we're gone. And so many kids that they don't have the puck in that right spot. And like you just described, a loaded position. Sometimes you don't have to walk. Sometimes as soon as you get the puck there, you can get it to the net. We've got the right numbers. We got a 2-on-1 down in front. We got a small defenseman down in front with two big forwards. I like that matchup. Well, let's get it to net right away. And versus, okay, I'm going to stick handle it 5 times, and then that is no longer there. That option is no longer there because they adjusted. Or as soon as I get it, I got to move the puck right away and then move my feet to space. So many kids they'll get it, stick handle, feel it out a little bit, and then shoot it or make your play. And trying to get kids to understand that there is a quick decision a lot of the time that can really help you at the next level as the game gets faster.
Yeah, for sure. Just I think the seeing the ice, bringing everything together, the layers, the detail. Your points on the wingers. Like most teams are playing box plus one in their D zone, so their job, their wingers, are get up in the shooting lane. And if our D aren't ready to move the puck, right, that's when we get stripped. That's when we get caught. So yeah, just building those more hockey plays, I guess, would be a great way to put it. Is so important.
I'm here with Ty Pracek of Gen Edge Hockey. We will post all of his social media links down below in this video description so you can give him a follow and check out what he's doing in the wide world of skills training for hockey. Ty, thanks for coming on, bud.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.